in case some of you need, right? I was saying assets is equal to liabilities plus equity. And we are looking at capital structure, and we are saying capital structure is the manner in which organizations' non-current assets are financed. So on our accounting equation, we are saying under assets, we are having current assets plus non-current assets, which is equal to current liabilities plus non-current liabilities plus equity. So we are saying capital structure is the manner in which organizations' non-current assets are what? Are financed. And non-current assets are financed. If you still remember in your accounting 112, where we were saying current liabilities, these are debts. These are debts that are payable 1 year or one operating cycle. Please, let's be silent. Let's be silent. These are debts that are payable within 1 year or one operating cycle, and those debts are usually paid through current assets or through creation of another what? Current liability. And we said a non-current liability is a debt that is not payable within 1 year. And on non-current assets, under non-current assets, we are having property, plant, and what? Equipment. And all these things, you can't pay them within what? 1 year. And when you want to finance these non-current assets, we usually finance the non-current assets through non-current liabilities and equity. So we are saying, what is a non-current liability? It's a what? A debt that is payable, that is not payable within what? 1 year or one operating cycle. So when we are looking at capital structure, we are saying this is a manner in which an organization's non-current assets are what? Are financed. So how do we finance our non-current assets, which are our property, plant, and equipment? We finance our non-current assets through debt or equity. Are you together, class? We finance our non-current assets through debt and or equity. Are you together? We finance our non-current assets through debt or equity. So the definition of capital structure, this is the manner in which our non-current assets are financed. And capital structure is expressed in percentages of each type of capital by the used by the organization. That is the proportion of debt versus equity, right? So when you are putting now the capital structure of any organization, for example, we're having our FOP. We want to build our FOP maybe phase 2. And phase 2 of our FOP is costing, assume, 200,000. Are you together? It's going to cost us 200,000 for our phase 2. And how are we going to finance that? We can either finance our phase 2 through debt, that is by asking for what? For a long-term loan, or through what? Equity. Right, let's try to define what is a debt and also what is a what? An equity. So we are saying a debt is a borrowed money raised through loans or sale or issue of bonds or debentures. So that's the summary of a debt. I think we know that one. So when you're financing usually a capital structure, you either ask for a what? for a debt. And usually those debts are long-term debts, which are what? Non-current liability. Of course, current liability is a debt, but a non-current liability is a debt usually for financing what? Our non-current assets. Then we come to our equity. Our equity is the money raised from the sale or issue of ordinary shares or from retained earnings, which are what? Our profit. Right? So we can either use money from either sale or issue of what? Shares by an organization, or our profits to finance a what? A non-current asset, or by asking for a what? For a loan. So it's expressed, the capital structure is expressed in percentages of each type of capital used by the organization. So what do we mean by that? For example, we want to build our phase 2 of our FOB. How much do we need? We need 200,000. And how are we going to get that money? We can either go to the bank and look for 150,000. And then we issue shares in tune of what? 50,000, right, together. So we will be now knowing that we are able now to finance our capital structure in tune of 200,000. And how have we financed? We financed it by debt in tune of what? 150,000, and equity in tune of how much? 50,000. Then we are saying it's expressed in percentages of each type of capital used by the what? By the organization. So if I may ask, how much, what is the percentage of debt in this capital structure? Mr. Ezekiel, can you assist us?
Sorry, I didn't get the question, sir.
The question is, we are saying for our phase 2, we want 200,000 US dollars for our phase 2 for FOB, and
Yes.
we are going to finance our phase 2 debt 150,000, equity 1,000. So I want the capital structure, and I said the capital structure is expressed in percentages of each type of capital used by the organization. So I want to find what is the percentage of debt in this capital structure.
It's 75%.
So therefore, our capital structure for FOB2 is going to be 75%, as to how much percent? 25%, right, together. So meaning to say, equity, it's 150, sorry, debt 150 and equity 50. So meaning to say, the debt amount is 75,000, is 75% of 200,000, right, together. So 150 divided by 200, that's how we got our what? Our 75%. And then equity, it's 50 over what? 200, right, together, class. If you have any question, please just say it. If you have a question, you can ask as I continue with the presentation. So that's how we are supposed to present your capital structure. Always, the capital structure is presented as follows: debt as to what? Equity. Right, together, capital structure is presented as debt as to equity. That is to say, debt percentage as to equity what? Percentage. Together. Right, so that's how we are supposed to. If you ask what is the capital structure of this organization, this is how we are supposed to present it. Right, then the capital structure of an organization entails the mix of equity and long-term debt, the components that an organization employs to finance its long-term investments or operations. The next determines which percentage of the organization's cash flows is attributable to owners or investors, and which percentage is attributable to what? To lenders. So in that instance, the percentage attributable to owners is what? 25%. Because that's the one that we have used to owners, that is the equity, and the percentage attributable to lenders is what? 75%. So we have this following example. The following example relates to Mahlangu Limited. The total capital is 100 million. And the equity amount that they used in this capital is 60 million. And then the debt is what? 40 million. Therefore, Mahlangu Limited started up the following capital structure: 60% equity and 40% what? Debt. So equity is 60%, which is 60 million over 100 million. Then debt, 40 million over 100 million, which equates to 40%. Therefore, the capital structure is expressed as, like I had said earlier on, it's expressed as debt to what? Equity. Therefore, in this instance, the capital structure for Mahlangu Limited, this ARA project, is going to be 40% as to what? 60%. Are you together, class? Right. Then there are some benefits of if I may ask you, which is better? How can we finance our project? Do you finance our project through equity or through debt? Which one is better? Which one would you prefer?
Equity.
All right, Mr. Ezekiel, you have said equity.
Yes.
The reason being?
The reason?
Yes.
It doesn't come with interest. Like debt, you have to pay. Like you pay interest on top of what you borrow.
Yes. Right. To add on that, if you still remember when you're calculating your net profit, you say, how do you reach on your net profit? You say sales less what? Cost of sales, and then you get your what? Your gross profit. Then from gross profit, you say less what? Expenses. Then you get your what? Profit for interest and what? And taxes. Are you together? You get your profit before interest and taxes. Assume that's the amount it is. Assume it's 185,000. Right together. Then from profit before interest and taxes, we have interest. We subtract, say less what? Interest. Are you together? This interest that we are talking of, these are interest from what? From borrowings. This is an interest from the borrowings. That is interest on this debt. Right together. That's the interest on this debt. Assume we are paying maybe 10% of interest every per annum. You have your profit, your interest element is going to be minus what? 15,000. Right together. Then profit before tax is going to be 185 less 50,000, which will be how much? What's 185 less 15? Hello?
170.
60,000.
Or one what?
170.
170,000. Are you together? Then we say less tax, right, together. Then from tax, maybe assume our tax is 20,000, right? Then our profit is going to be what?
150,000.
So from this 150, that's where we calculate all other taxes altogether. But if we had financed, our project with equity, if we had financed our project with equity, we're not going to have 15,000. So meaning to say, we are going to have before tax how much? 185. Then let's tax 20,000. In fact, our tax that we are supposed to pay is going to be more because our profit will be what? We'll be calculating our tax from this amount. Right together. Assume, let me put this information on Excel. Right, you are saying sales right, assume sales it was 350,000. Then we say less cost of sales. Assume cost of sales it was 50,000. So sales less cost of sales, get 300,000, which is our what? Our gross profit, right, together. Then we say less expenses. Assume our expenses amounted to 80,000, right? Then our profit before interest and taxes, is going to be gross profit less our expenses, right? We get 220,000. Then we have interest. We say less interest. Less interest. Assume the interest element is 10% of the what? Of the debt. And it said the debt amount here is 150,000. So we are paying 10% per annum. So 10% of 150,000 is going to be what? 15,000, right together. So plus 220 minus 15,000, we get our profit before tax, going to be 205,000. Then assume less tax. Assume our tax 15%. Assume our tax is 15%. So our tax is going to be plus is equal to profit before tax 205 multiplied by 0.15, which is 30.7. Therefore, our net profit is going to be 205 minus 2750. So I was saying, if we financed our project using the much of the debt, do you see how much tax we are going to pay? We are going to pump out 30,750. Hello? We are pumping out how much? 30,750. But assume we financed the whole structure. If we have financed the whole structure by equity, there is no what? debt. We financed everything by equity. So this will mean that we no longer have what? Interest, because this interest, it's interest on what? On debt. We no longer have what? Interest there. So therefore, our interest is going to be what? 0. Do you see? Our profit is going to be 200 and what? 20,000. Do you see how much we are going to pay out? Earlier on, we paid how much? 30,000. But now, how much takes our time? It's 33,000. So it's cheaper to finance capital structure. Tomorrow you'll be finance managers. So it's far much cheaper to finance capital structures through debt than through what? Equity. Because if we finance everything on equity, there is no subtraction of that interest element. Right? Because this interest element that we are paying out on something, on the debt that we are benefiting. And at the end of the day, we pay less tax. But if there is no interest, we are not benefiting anything from someone or from the bank or from any financial lender, but we are paying what? Much more tax. We are paying much more tax to authority, or and we won't be benefiting much from them. So it's better and it's cheaper to finance our capital structure through what? Our capital through debt. Are you together? Right? If you can check, I want you guys to, there's an example that we are having here. If you can check on the notes. Right, we are having following information regarding to the current situation of Flamin Limited is available. Total assets, 100 million, equity, 100 million. So the tax rate, 20%, interest rate, 10%. Then earnings before interest and tax, 20 million. Right, so you're asked to the what, which is better. There are several options that we're having. The first one, total assets 100 and equity 100. Then assume you want to, what happens when an additional plant, that is another asset in tune of 100 million, is acquired using only equity funding. You may assume that this plant will generate the same EBIT as the current plant. So you want to check if we want to buy another plant. Currently, we are having this plant in tune of 100 million. So assume we want to purchase another plant in tune of 100 million. What will happen if we fund it through what? Equity. Then, second option, what will happen if the second plant is funded through 50% equity and 50% what? Through debt? Then what will happen again if we fund it through what? 100% debt. So I want you guys in a few minutes, in 5 minutes or so, you check on these calculations on how they were done. And at the end of the day, I want you to check which one is better. Should we fund through equity, 100% equity, or 100% debt? So I'll exit this meeting so that you discuss on your own. Then just log in again in 5 minutes. There's something that I want to do. Just log in 5 minutes, then we can continue from there. Anyone with a question before you check on these examples? Anyone with a question? All right, so you can now on those examples, then try to amass on it. Then in a few minutes, 5 minutes time, try to log back. Then I'll explain on that one.